last time I forgot. And there was a couple people where I was like, oh, if you missed it, no problem. I'll send you the recording. And then afterwards, I was like, oh, maybe I won't. So no big deal. So obviously, Ray, you were here last time. Casey, you were here like halfway through last time. So we'll do
Yeah.
a quick overview of what we talked about last time because Bethany, you had mentioned that and wanted to make sure that you were on the right track. So we'll go to a quick overview of what we talked about last time, and then we will dive into today's concepts. And I'll talk you through the differences between those two. So I do have a little PowerPoint, make it all cute. Don't be too impressed. I literally took the PowerPoint that I made before and just adjusted it. If it works, right? You guys would be so proud of me. So the first time I did this, I had 30, 40 slides, something like that. And we got through like maybe a third of them last time. I got our slides down to, besides the intro, like 3 or 4.
Wow.
So I'm feeling good. I think this is going to be very like action oriented, which is what I'm excited about. So, all right, so we're going to dive in. So we did a meal prep 1.0 essentially. This is going to be our meal prep 2.0. Obviously, disclaimer, feel free to read it, blah, 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 consult your doctor, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll send these slides out too. Cameras on if you can. Feel free to use the chat box. Since there's so few of us, we'll probably just talk most of the time, but feel free to add in commentary if there's anything that you feel like would be helpful. There's one point where we're actually going to share some resources, so that might be a good place to do it. And then really quick before we dive in, any wins? Anyone have something cool going on?
Oh yeah, so I officially I kind of mentioned this on Thursday or last Tuesday. I officially got my Mexican citizenship, so I'm now a citizen of Mexico.
Nice. So my mom's actually asking about that, so I can ask you now if that works. You're going to Nicaragua, but that's in South America, right? Is there a reason that you got your Mexican citizenship?
Yeah, Nicaragua's in Central America, and I got it because my dad was born in Mexico.
Uh-huh.
I'm able to get my citizenship so I can buy like property, eventually like live there, um, for however long I want. I won't be on a tourist visa, so I can just go and it's easier to get into other countries with a Mexican passport too. So
Mm, nice. Very cool. All right. Casey, Bethany, anything to share?
Not really. I mean, there haven't been any big losses, so that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Nothing off the top of my head.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. We'll go ahead and move on. So this is kind of the framework that we approach the meal prep whole thing about. It's our odd method. So A for building awareness, W for weighing options, C for making deliberate decisions. So the first time around when we did meal prep 1.0, it was kind of our awareness. We were talking a little
Mhm.
bit, we'll dive into exactly what we did, but we were talking a little bit more about like quality and why is it important, pros and cons, stuff like that. So today we will be doing weighing options and then making deliberate decisions so that we're really putting things into action. And our goal is to leave with a meal plan, if not a meal prep plan. I know this sounds not too different, but you know what I mean. And so Casey, I know that that's something that you and I have talked about before for sure. And then Bethany, you obviously have a ton of utensils and tools that you've been working with. So that'll be cool to play with a little bit as well. So a quick review of last time, and I'll ask Ray and Casey's feedback, and then Bethany, feel free to throw anything else in. Pros and cons of meal prep. So let's just get 3 popcorn pros of meal prep.
pros, convenience. Um, it's pretty easy to just grab the food. Um, what was another one? Oh yeah, like less of a mess like during the week, because you're just cooking one time and you just clean it up that day. During the week you're not cooking, so you're not washing dishes or anything. Um, and well, meal prepping, better options, nu nutrition options.
Okay, yeah, like quality control type of thing.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny because we were just eating One week we were super duper busy, so we cooked a couple of things out of the bag, you know, like those bagged pastas and stuff that you could buy. So we cooked a couple of things out of the bag and just threw like extra veggies and stuff in it. But one, the calorie count was so low. It was like 200 calories, and that's with us beefing it up, which is crazy. And then two, it just didn't taste as good as our food. It's like, why did we do this? But we were busy, so it totally makes sense. Bethany, Casey, any other pros to add?
You know what you're eating.
Mm-hmm.
It also that cleaning up the mess, and you don't have that, like, when I'm driving home, I'm trying to figure out what I'm making. I'm like going through everything that's in my kitchen. So sometimes I have a vague idea, but I tend to not plan that far ahead. I just buy sort of the same things. And so then it's like, what do I have time for? And what do I want to eat?
Yeah.
And so it kind of takes some of that away, so you're not so stressed.
Even a little bit of that like decision fatigue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Totally. Casey, anything to add?
I think it provides some consistency slash routine, like you prep all your meals in one day and then throughout the week. Like if you're trying to eat more vegetables or whatever, it's like you already have them all prepared. So now you're eating veggies every day. So
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because we can control those portions a little bit more, for sure. Yeah. I grew up in a house where, you eat what you eat and then you go back and get seconds. And that was a very normal thing to do. So this is like that is what you have and it's already portioned out and stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty cool too. All right, quick cons. We'll get a couple popcorn cons.
just time spent prepping.
Mm-hmm.
You decide you really just don't want to eat that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say feels like leftovers sometimes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Definitely. Okay. And then the next thing that we talked about was like this scale of being processed to being unprocessed or minimally processed to being ultra processed, right? So that's the Nova classification scale is what we looked at. So what do we think, just to keep it super duper simple, would be a handful of foods that we'll go with ultra processed because I think that's the easiest one. So things that are like unrecognizable as food. Ultra processed, yeah.
Like any chips, like snacky foods.
Cooking oils.
Okay, so interestingly enough, those are actually in the minimally processed category.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I would have thought they had to go through a big process to squeeze all that out of there.
Yeah, so there's 4 classifications. Technically, it's minimally or unprocessed, processed, something, and then ultra processed. Why am I blanking on one of them? But yeah, that's basically, so it's right in the bottom tier, one of those 2 cooking oils. Yeah. Anything else ultra processed?
Chocolate?
What about desserts, maybe?
Yeah, totally.
Some of those
Dessert.
pre-done desserts.
Yeah, lots of drinks like Monsters. You're not gonna find that in nature, right?
Wait, all those minerals aren't good for you?
I mean, some of them, right? So then on the other side is the easier one, is our unprocessed or minimally processed. So what do we think?
Just veggies.
Yeah.
Raw veggies.
Fruits.
Mm-hmm.
Is cheese ultra processed?
It is actually up there. That's in the 3rd category.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And so like basically the minimally processed, and then whatever that next category is that I'm forgetting off the top of my head right now is like there's like a 1-step process, right? So that's our oils, that's our butters maybe, but then cheese would be the next step up in terms of being processed.
I don't necessarily think it means that cheese is bad.
Right.
Just depends on what kind of cheese and how they process it, all that stuff.
Yeah. And everything in moderation, right? We always know that. Definitely. Yeah. So minimally processed or unprocessed is going to be like nuts, legumes too, all those, right? Basically anything that's a plant or that you can find in real life. For sure. Okay. So then the next thing that we talked about was quality upgrades. So let's pick a food, and then what food do you feel like you could upgrade it for? I can keep it general, or we can pick a food.
You should give us something,
Okay.
quiz us, come up with something, and then we'll
French
figure
fries.
swap.
What would be an upgrade for French fries?
Oh,
Starchy veggie.
Okay.
It's like a
yeah.
baked potato.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
I say like a yucca plant or a
Ooh,
sweet.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Plantain.
Nice. Dare I say it, a side salad?
Oh goodness, you're getting really crazy now.
And that would be the upgrade of the upgrade, right?
Well, that's
Okay.
like a totally different thing.
Yeah, it totally is. And that's kind of the idea behind it, is that there's different like ladders, different steps, right? Different rungs that you can go up. And so like the 1% better, and then getting used to that food, liking it, whatever, and then doing an upgrade from that one as well. And just doing it one step at a time. What about something like soda? Let's say you're a big soda fanatic. What would be a good upgrade for that?
Fizzy water, like flavored water.
Okay, absolutely.
Water.
If you want something sweet, maybe like coconut water
Okay.
that doesn't have much sugar.
I drink a lot of electrolyte water, not a lot, but a glass or whatever. That's a big one for me. Diet soda, actually, surprisingly, even though it has some of those substitute sugars, if you're specifically trying to go for like a lower calorie, it's definitely a lot less in a diet, or technically none at all, right? So yeah, a lot of people kind of switch over to that at least. Cool. Okay, perfect. So quality upgrades, that one's pretty easy. Again, start somewhere, work your way up. Once you get used to that, then you can decide if you want to upgrade again. Now, with that being said, quality upgrades is not always practical. And the reason I say that is sometimes we try to make it like either such a big shift, or we upgrade so many times that like we don't like it anymore, right? So at one point in time, I was looking for a tortilla sub for like my regular, burrito tortillas for my breakfast burritos or something like that. So I tried like spinach wraps, and I tried some kind of low carby wheat option. And you know what happened? I stopped eating my burritos. So I was like, okay, never mind, we're going back. And like it is what I need it to be, right? And it has the right amount of carbs and nutrients and stuff. So yeah, it's totally about like deciding what level you're willing to go to, but you're not going to eat food that you hate, right? Like that would be terrible. All right. And then the last one that we talked about was some smart swaps, similar to a quality upgrade. So one of the ones that we talked about specifically was potato substitutes. So Ray, you already mentioned one like a yucca plant or something like that. Any other potato substitutes that you guys have tried before?
Cauliflower.
Ooh, okay.
Sweet potatoes.
Nice.
Depends on, it depends on what you're making.
Yeah.
Well, and you could switch out the kind of potatoes. So some of the red potatoes and the huckleberry potatoes, they're much lower glycemic index.
Absolutely. And that's, again, not just like the processed, unprocessed conversation. It's not saying that potatoes are bad necessarily, right? Depending on what your goals are, there may be better options. So some other root vegetables, like you could do a radish or a rutabaga or something like that in a recipe where it still has that like starchy texture, but you're not getting as much of that high glycemic index. Totally an option too. Cool. Awesome. All right, we'll go ahead and move on. So that was basically what we talked about last time. So today we're talking about meal prep, specifically meal planning, meal prep. So these are the 4 stages that I've broken it down to kind of based off of my own experience. We started meal prepping back in 2014 now, which is crazy to think. It's been over a decade. And so the first stage of meal prep, I think, is basically just doubling your recipe. I think we've all talked about this before. Just make more of whatever you're eating, right? And then it will be leftovers. Sorry, Ray. But that way you're basically just eating the exact same thing. You just buy a little bit more ingredients, and then you can freeze them if you want to eat it later or whatever. So doubling your recipe, super duper easy way to get started. Stage number 2 is creating the meal plan for the week. That's what we're going to try and leave today with. Stage number 3 is meal prepping probably a few days at a time. I put a week at a time here. And that is, I think, where most people kind of land. They're like, okay, I'm willing to give up like half of one day to prep most of the meals for the week, right? And then stage 4, which is where we are, and we've been for a couple of years, is prepping a couple of weeks at a time because we realized that it was actually more annoying to do it every weekend than it was to just do one big thing every 2 weeks. But with that being said, we did need some tools to be able to make that work, right? And so that's what we'll kind of talk about, is the logistics through that. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is, what stage do you feel like you would like to be at? And then if you wanted to upgrade later, which stage do you think that you would like to get to? So Ray, what stage do you feel like was most reasonable with like you and your life right now?
Yeah, right now, I think I would, I'm probably in stage 1 actually.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would like to be at stage 3.
Oh, okay. Nice. Bethany?
Stage 1, occasionally I get rambunctious and do stage 2, but that's
Okay.
usually when it's like around holidays, and so I have to like plan everything out so I don't kill myself. Um, I like to be at stage 3, not necessarily meal prepping a week at a time per se,
Mhm.
but being able to prep a bunch of stuff and either freeze it or freeze dry it so we could do it later. So if we have a day we're tired or we're going camping or something like that, so one of us is sick, we have food ready to go.
Yes, I love that. Awesome. And that's totally an option too. And obviously these stages are ambiguous. You can pick whatever you want. So I really love that, like breaking it up and having elements almost ready, right? Totally. Casey.
Yeah, I think I'm at stage 1 also, just making recipes bigger and then having at least one meal a day throughout the week. Uh, and then yeah, stage 3 would be cool. And I'm kind of assuming that the meal prep thing is like, you're meal prepping for multiple meals a day. Is that what we're talking about here?
Theoretically, with that being said, again, ambiguous, we can decide what that means for you. And so we'll do that
Okay.
today as well. Totally. Good question. Okay, awesome. So now that we've identified the stages of meal prep, the first thing that we're going to talk about is creating a meal plan. And then we're going to do some action for this. So a couple of things that I broke it into is things that help you pick what you're going to eat, and then things that you should consider when you're deciding what you're going to eat. So things that should help you pick. One of the things that we like to do is just open our cupboards and see what's in there, right? What do we have in our freezer? What do we have in our cupboards? Let's try and use as many of the ingredients we already have. One, for money, and then also for food waste, right? We want to try and use what we have. So that's one of the biggest things. We were growing a lot of stuff in our garden this last year. And so having us check our garden and what was ripe and what we were going to be able to pull was really cool too, because then we could do things that were like fresh in season. Or if you wanted to technically go to the grocery store and just kind of pick it out while you're there, that's an option too. It's just a little harder. Sometimes I like to have it planned before we go to the grocery store. So that's the first one, just kind of shopping your cupboards. The next is actually doing the meal planning. And obviously there's a ton of like apps and stuff for that. You don't technically have to do it yourself if you don't want to. We just like to pick our food because we know what we like and we know what recipes have worked well for us. The internet is obviously a great resource. And then Casey, you were even using some recipe books, right?
Oh yeah.
Old school.
Well, yeah. I mean, my mom's got like a gazillion recipe books, so
I'm sure we have at least a couple on the shelf that I haven't cracked open in years, right?
yeah.
So yeah, recipe books, internet reference. If you have anybody that just ate something awesome and wanted to share with you, and we'll do a little bit of that today if we have a chance. And then literally the last piece is what sounds good. You're just like, hey, I'm going to be impulsive right now while I'm making this meal plan in anticipation for the fact that I know that I'm going to want to eat this for this week. So I know that's like a little less impulsive than like, what do I want to eat today? But I think it still serves the same purpose because you want your food to be delicious, right? You want it to be nutritious and delicious, right? That's our goal. So those are kind of the main like parameters around picking. Any other ones that people can think of? No? Okay. All right. We'll go into considerations next. So a couple things to consider is what cooking utensils you can or want to use, right? And so sometimes we'll pick, like, especially if we're busy, we'll pick like a crock pot meal and an instant pot meal, and then grill a bunch of stuff on the grill so that we can have it all cooking at the same time. Because
Oh, that's
nobody
cool.
wants to sit and have one pot and then make a meal and then do another pot and make a meal. Like, that's just it. So being able to like break it up times like what cooking utensils you want to use, have something in the oven, have something in the whatever, you know? So breaking it up, I think, is really, really helpful. And considering that as we're planning is a really great way to be able to make sure that you're going to be as efficient as possible. Bulk ingredients. If there's anything that you're not going to get completely tired of, but you can have it in different like variations, like chicken or onions or something like that, then not only are you going to save money buying it in bulk, you're also going to be able to use more of it, right? So that you're not just having to freeze stuff or throw stuff away or anything like that. The next one is the freshness required. So this is like if you're cooking something that you should eat in the next couple of days, keep that in mind, right? We used to make our salads like a week in advance. They do not last a week. You do not want to eat a week old salad. Like, so if you're going to eat something that's a little bit fresher, then you should plan that you're going to eat it throughout the first couple of days or have the ingredients to make a couple more later in the week, right? That's always an option too. Or reheat method. Some things do not heat up very well. Fish is a big one in the microwave, right? You probably have to stovetop that one. Anything that has like an oil base, like a pesto or lots of creamy, cheesy somethings like an Alfredo or something like that, oftentimes don't microwave very well. So if you're planning to microwave it, like take it to work or something like that, that's something to consider as well. And these are all things that you'll learn as you go through the process, but just to keep them in mind as you're planning what you're going to make. The next is variety and taste. So just like we talked about what sounds good, is like, I don't want to eat 4 different chicken meals with broccoli and rice, right? Like, that sounds boring and awful. And I think that's what a lot of people think meal prep is. So being able to create different variety, one thing that we do is like pick from different cuisines. We're like, oh, we're gonna have an Asian meal and a Mexican meal and and so if we can pick from different like cuisines, then we know that they're going to taste different too, and that's going to make them more appealing when we have to eat our leftovers. And then the last is obviously dietary restrictions or preferences. So if you have any allergies or if you're lactose intolerant or anything like that, we'll talk about like how to customize it if people in your house do things differently. But generally speaking, obviously something to keep in mind. So those are the main considerations. Any comments or anything to add there?
Yeah, I like the variety and or taste because you could still, like for example, still do chicken, rice, and broccoli, but for each day that you make that, like add different seasonings, like different flavors, so that it doesn't all taste the exact same.
Yeah. And trust me, brother, that was exactly what our meal prep looked like at first. It was broccoli, chicken, and rice, but then we put a different sauce on it. Like, and if that's where it needs to start, cool. But you might get tired of it kind of fast. So yeah,
Yeah.
having that variety and having those different options, even if you do a chicken breast versus a chicken thigh, like that tastes different, right? That feels different. Totally. Anything else for the considerations? No? Okay. So then the last piece is that I would highly suggest some type of tracking system. Now, keep it simple, sweetie. If you make it complicated, you won't continue to do it. I tried to do like a tracking system and like rate how many stars I thought a food was, blah, blah, blah. But like, I did not keep track of it. So ours is this ugly little document. I'll show you guys. It's literally just a Google Docs. I even tried to keep this table up to date. It is not up to date at all. This is what it looks like. Literally, I have a link, what we're going to cook, and then like if we're making any adaptations to it. And every week I just add to the top of the list. And if we want to make something that we made before, I'll use the find function and then copy and paste it and add it to the top of the list. Like that's it. It's nothing pretty, but it helps us keep everything in there. And if there's something that I like hated and I was like, this was disgusting, we should never make it again, maybe I'll put a note in there. But I did not make it complicated because I tried that and it didn't work. So I would definitely suggest writing it down so that you can kind of track it and cycle through it. Okay, so action time. I went the wrong way. There we go. We're going to pick our meals. So You can pretend to look at your fridge or cupboards, or you can really go look at your fridge or cupboards. You're going to take a piece of paper, pen, type whatever you want to do, and write down a few things that you have in your kitchen right now. And together we are going to come up with some meal options based off of what you have or what sounds good, or if there's anything in season. So I'm going to give you a minute. Ready, set, go. And then we're going to discuss it all together. And if you have any recipes that you want to share, this is a great time for that too. I see you, Casey. You should be taking notes.
Taking notes. I have it all in my mind's eye.
Oh, okay. So if you saw something that looked good, we can pretend it's not Thanksgiving week. Maybe this is for next week. All right. So we're going to pick one meal in particular, one ingredient in particular, something that sounded interesting, and give it out to the group and see if anyone has any ideas as to how we can prepare it. Because this is kind of fun getting feedback from somebody else. So Ray, what is something that you want to use from your cupboard or sounded good?
Just like one ingredient, right?
Yeah, one ingredient or like an idea maybe you had, but you're not
Oh,
sure how to execute.
um, well, I put oats that I usually mostly sometimes do for breakfast.
Okay.
Mhm.
And how do you eat them now so that we know what type of things to suggest?
So right now I eat it with strawberry yogurt, and I also put grapes and blueberries, or like strawberries and blueberries, or just grapes, or just blueberries, or just strawberries.
Okay, nice. All right.
Yeah.
Any suggestions? How should Ray try his oats? Do you do it in the morning or do you do overnight oats?
No, I just do it in the morning. Yeah.
Have you tried overnight oats?
I have probably like 2 times
And you
before.
didn't
Like
like it?
I enjoyed it. I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was doing overnight oats for a while, and what I did is got some Granny Smith apples and cut them up into little cubes and added some cinnamon with some chia seeds and some almond milk and let them sit overnight. And I think nutmeg, cinnamon and nutmeg. And that was like a warm apple pie. It was awesome.
You said the apples, chia seeds, and what else was it?
Cinnamon and nutmeg. And then you can always crumble some like nuts on top or something like that.
Mm.
I use almond milk because I'm lactose intolerant. Obviously, whatever milk you want to use
Yeah.
or water.
You could do granola, but it's harder with fresh fruits. It works better with dried. I would keep saying I'm going to make granola. I buy the ingredients and then we somehow end up eating them separately, but on the list.
Oh, you know what I never figured out about granola is how to make it so clustery.
You have to bake it.
We did, and I put honey on it, and I could not get them to stick. It was all just.
Well, you have to cook the oats first, or you have to toast the oats or the cereal, whatever you're doing, and then you mix in the honey and whatever, and you bake it again.
Maybe I missed the first toasting
Which might
step.
be what you did, and it still didn't work. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would say try a different recipe or find a recipe that has more feedback on it.
Mm-hmm. And then I decided it was too much work and I stopped making it.
It is a lot.
Like that's worth buying the $5 granola.
It's lots of work so that you don't have to do a lot of work that morning.
Right. Any other suggestions for Ray and his oatmeal? Okay. Casey, give us an ingredient or idea.
Well, I didn't get very far. I only have I guess we'll say broccoli because I like broccoli as one of my veggies. That's like one of the ones that I will consistently eat and enjoy.
Okay.
And I usually have it as either just grilled, like in the oven, or I mean roasted, and or broccoli salad,
Hmm.
which is delicious.
Nice. Any broccoli suggestions?
Those are great suggestions. I mean, because steamed is kind of boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, we started doing the microwavable steamed ones, and then we just throw them on the pan for a second to like char them and season them, just because it's faster.
Yeah, well, as you were saying, grilled broccoli is pretty good.
Yeah, we do roasted all the time.
Mhm.
I know. I can only come up with a couple ideas. It's hard to be creative with broccoli, I feel like.
And that's a really interesting point because if I can challenge you, are you thinking of broccoli as a side or as an ingredient? Is that what I mean?
That's true. Yeah, more as a side.
Because technically there's a ton of recipes with broccoli as an ingredient, right? And so that's an option too. And we'll talk about meal composition next, but it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be a side of broccoli necessarily. It could be like baked into whatever you're making, right? So if we think about it that way, would be some other recipes that you guys have or that you really like that have broccoli in them?
Like a quiche.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like putting broccoli in lentil soup.
Ooh,
That
Mm.
sounds good.
Yeah, any kind of a bunch of different soups would be great. Or even if you did some sort of like ghoul half half goulash thing, but then you could just throw the veggies in with it. It just depends on how, if it tastes good.
I really like a lot of casserole dishes that have broccoli in them
Hmm.
too. I feel like that really is a nice consistency, still kind of crunchy and stuff.
I've had it as a pizza topping before too.
I have
Yeah.
not had
Interesting.
that. Yeah.
It was actually really good.
Okay, I believe you. I'm not sure I would pick it. There's a pizza place around here that puts asparagus on there, but they put like half sticks of asparagus. And I'm like,
Oh.
there's no way that's a fun thing to eat. I like asparagus. It just seems like it'd be really hard to eat. All right, Beth, can you give us an idea or an ingredient?
Um, so one of the things I'm trying to experiment with is spaghetti sauce, different kinds of spaghetti sauce, and being able to put more vegetables into it, incorporate them in so that I don't have to make a side with it.
I love that. And that's exactly what we were talking about with Casey too, right? That's another option is just have the vegetables incorporated instead of having them separate. So any spaghetti sauce suggestions or ideas?
Or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you can if you cook the spaghetti sauce or like tomato sauce in oil a little bit and let all the water come out and add some like different seasonings.
Hmm.
When I was vegan, I would do that, but put just a whole bunch of random veggies in there, and it would and cook the tomato sauce with the veggies, and so like the veggies could like get the tomato sauce flavor in
Hmm.
with the extra seasonings, and it was actually pretty good.
So
Yeah,
did you have that over rice, or you just had the spaghetti sauce mixed in with the vegetables, and that was your dish?
yeah, just like that. Sometimes
Oh,
rice,
okay.
yeah, or other things on the side, but yeah, that was like a side or like a main thing.
Casey, you got anything?
Uh, I can't think of anything.
If you do want to do a fresh spaghetti sauce, we just did that with tomatoes from our garden. And instead of making them into like a crushed tomato or anything like that, we literally just chopped them up kind of small and like baked it all together. I think it was. I think I baked them first and then we made the spaghetti sauce from it. And it was a little bit
Mm,
liquidy, but it was so fresh and so, so good. I really, really liked that.
that sounds yummy.
And if you're looking for like a noodle substitute, we've played with like some zoodles, heart artichoke hearts. They have an artichoke heart that's like a noodle consistency that's really interesting.
Huh.
Yeah. So we played with some of those variations when we were trying to do low carb when we first found out that Cowboy was diabetic. And then we found out that he was supposed to be eating carbs. So we gave up on those. But there are a lot of really cool noodle substitutes if you're looking for something like that.
Yeah, maybe mix it up. Have
Yeah.
some noodles or rice and then have some veg. Yeah.
And then if you chop the veggies up really, really small, like broccoli, mushrooms, anything like that, then I feel like it just melds so much better with the spaghetti flavor, you know?
Or
Yeah.
or maybe even try stir frying the tomato sauce first and use that as like put it in white rice to make like red rice with some flavor.
It's funny, I was just watching a gal, I want to say she's Korean. They do like this tomato rice thing.
Mm.
And they like put the tomatoes in the rice and then mix it all up and as it cooks. It was really interesting. It sounded really good. And they did it in the rice cooker. And I
Oh,
was like, okay, well, that's simple.
yeah, I love that. I was gonna say there's also a southern version. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember if it was red beans and rice or I think it's jambalaya. There's a
Mm.
jambalaya where you do a red sauce like rice combo. That's really good too. Cool. All right, perfect. So we're going to go ahead and move into our next one, which is customizing the meal. So once we have our meal, let's just pick whichever one we just talked about. You can pick one of the ones that we decided on. What we're going to talk about is how to customize each meal to make sure that it is fitting your own needs. So generally speaking, we want 4 to 6 ounces of protein. So that's about the palm of your hand. Palm of your hand should be about 4 ounces. So we want about 4 to 6 ounces of protein per meal. And then obviously people in your house might have different needs. So if you're trying to like bulk up or something like that, you might need closer to like 6 ounces or something like that, right? So you can totally do that. And then if you wanted to calculate approximately how much protein you needed altogether for the whole day so that you could break it up per meal, there's a ton of different versions. One of the easiest ones is about a gram per pound. So that's approximately how much protein that you'd want. And then you can divide that by your 3 meals and whatever your snacks are and stuff like that. We want to consider what's our veggie or our plant in the food. So we want to make sure we all did Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen. I think, Ray, you've heard of it, but you just haven't done it yet. The goal is to get as many different like plants in our diet as possible. And so if we're considering that, how can I double the veggie? How can I add an extra veggie? How can I, make this grain more high quality or high density or high fiber type of thing, right? And that's the next one is nutrient dense grains. So really quick, let's talk about nutrient dense grains. So nutrient, not dense, there's a word for that. Simple carbs is the real term for it, would be just like a regular spaghetti or a white rice or something like that. Not necessarily bad, again, just on the scale in terms of being able to get a lot of like fiber benefits from it. They're a little bit lower in fiber, right? So let's talk really quickly about some nutrient dense grains. What are some other grains that you can eat?
Buckwheat.
Mm-hmm.
Farro,
Okay,
quinoa,
nice. And we can call them, we'll just call it a starch or a carb, right? We don't necessarily have to call it a grain. What other starches and carbs would you consider high nutrient dense?
Sweet potatoes.
Okay. Beans, lentils.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of really cool recipes I'm discovering, especially in the Mediterranean region, where you're mixing like a rice with a bean or a pea or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that's interesting to think about too. Even brown rice or wild rice will typically have a higher fiber, right? So those are things to consider as well. Usually, so I put the plate on the right here. I'm sure you guys have seen some version of this. It used to be a pyramid when I was a kid. So the idea behind it is that the grains and the protein are taking about a quarter of the plate. And then the other half of the plate is some type of like plant something, right? So a lot of times we like to put things like on a bed of veggies or veggies incorporated into it, like we talked about with the casseroles and stuff like that. They put dairy over here on the corner. So I think we all do pretty well on dairy, and like fat with oils and stuff like that are usually included. But that being said, what are some really like, again, nutrient dense fat options that are maybe plant-based that could be still really helpful for you?
Do you
Or
mean
maybe
like
not plant-based.
avocado oil, like
Yeah.
a different type of oil?
Yeah, absolutely. And like avocados in general, that's a really great one, definitely. And I guess we'll take out the plant-based because there are going to be a lot in the animal kingdom as well. Fish fats, that's a big one, right? You can get any type of
Salmon.
omega-3s, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Nuts, another one. Yeah. So that's something that is usually already included. So you don't have to think too hard about adding it, generally speaking, because again, we're cooking with oils and stuff like that. But fats are positive. Ray, do you remember what we talked about with fats in your brain?
Yes, that our brain is made up of, is it 60 or 40% of fat?
60%. Isn't that crazy? So
like
don't
a
not
block
eat
of
fat.
butter.
A block of butter in your head. So fat is good. So definitely still make sure that we're including it. We just often don't have to try as hard because a lot of things are dairy based or they have cheese on them or whatever, right? Cool. So that's the general composition of the plate itself. And then considerations, portion control. So we just talked about like 4 to 6 ounces per person, being able to make sure that we have enough veggies in there, everything like that. Personal customizations like toppings. This is kind of a fun one. So that you have a lactose intolerant person and a not lactose intolerant person in your household. You can meal prep the meal without any cheese on it, but then have a bag of cheese ready so that if they want to throw it on top before they heat it up, they can add or something like that, right? And then that way you don't have to cook 20 different meals, exaggerating obviously, but I think that's a lot of what people have an issue with is they're like, so many people in my house are either picky or they don't like the same things or whatever the case is. The base can still be the same, right? Or like Bethany was talking about having different ingredients and then being able to like kind of build your own. Like a Lunchable, right? Is a really great way to be able to customize it. So toppings at the end, being able to have those be the same base, but then change up what gets put on top is a huge one that's super helpful, I think. And then the other thing that we want to consider is our snacks and dessert. Are we going to eat dessert? What does that look like? What does that calorie content going to look like? How many snacks do we want to eat during the day? Should we consider that in our calorie count as well? And I did say possibly calories because I know not everyone is tracking right now. But right now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a little bit of a calculation. So first thing I'm going to have you do is write down how many ounces, excuse me, how many grams of protein approximately you'd need during the day. This is our weight, basically, right? So however many pounds you weigh ish is approximately how many calories or how many grams of protein. So that's the first thing we're going to write down. And then the second thing we're going to write down is how many meals are we accounting for? So not necessarily how many are we planning and or prepping, but how many meals are you going to eat during the day? I eat 3 main meals. I think that's mostly normal for everybody. Totally fine if it's not. So write down how many meals you're going to have. And then the last is how many snacks do you want to be able to eat? So I like to snack in between my meals. I do like 2 to 3 snacks per day. So write down how many snacks you think you'll eat. And there's some variance, right? Not everything that we're going to make is going to be the exact same calorie count or anything like that, but this will at least give us a general composition. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to assume everyone's at 2,000 calories. We know that that's not true. It's not going to be different for everybody, but just for calculation's sake, we're going to say about 2,000 calories, right? So how many snacks did you say that you were going to eat?
2.
2?
I did 2 to 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I have like 3 to 4.
Oh, okay, cool. A little bit more of a snacker. Cool. And that's a good thing to acknowledge too, because if you're a little bit more of a snacker and you like to snack throughout the day, then that means that your portions can be a little bit smaller for your meals because you may not need as many calories, right? So great.
Mm.
Okay. So now, how many calories approximately do you think most of your snacks are? Mine are probably about 200 on average, I would say. Like a protein bar is going to be 200, 250. Sometimes I'll eat popcorn, or like a little yogurt with some fruit in it or something like that. So I think generally speaking between 150 to 250. So I'm going to say 200 for mine.
I'm gonna say like 250.
250. Okay.
Mm.
No idea.
No idea. Okay. Cool. We'll go with 200. Make it easy. Casey.
Yeah, I think it's usually about the same for me too, around 200.
Okay, cool, perfect. And you can obviously pick your snacks based off of what you want that number to be too, right? So let's say that we all have 200. For math's sake, we're just gonna all calculate this together for a second. So let's say we all have 200. We're gonna eat 2 snacks a day, 400 calories. We have 2,000 calories total. Take away the 400 calories, we're left with 1,600 calories. So that's approximately 500 calories per, right? 530. Approximately 500 calories per meal, right? And obviously, some people have less of an appetite in the morning, so they might eat a smaller breakfast and then they'll eat larger lunch and dinner, whatever the case is. So you can be a little bit more exact about it once you really dive into it. But generally speaking, let's say about 500 calories. So 500 calorie meal is going to be approximately a 4 to 6 ounce piece, a portion. It's going to be approximately half a cup of rice, maybe a cup of noodles if you're doing that because it's a little bit more spread out, right? Like the egg noodles and stuff like that just take up more space. Half a cup of rice, about a cup of noodles, and then about a cup of veggies, and then whatever cheese and oils and stuff that you're working on, right? So let's come up with whatever your meal was with those portion sizes. So Ray, yours was for oatmeal and breakfast.
Mhm.
Let's say that yours is a little bit lower since you are snacking more. Let's say it's 400 calories, right? So you've got your yogurt, you've got your oatmeals in, or your oats in there, and then you've got your berries. So we've got our fat in the yogurt, we've got our grains in the oats, and then we've got our berries, which is that fruit slash vegetable category. Is there anything that we're missing in terms of a plate to make it a full meal composition?
Uh, well, reading from this plate, protein.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. Maybe a
Yeah.
little bit of protein in the yogurt, but probably not that much, right? So what's something that you could do to add extra protein to what you're eating to make it a nice, well-rounded meal?
Yeah. So actually the yogurt and the oats that I have, they have protein in it.
Ooh,
Like I
okay.
specifically buy the protein yogurt and the protein oats.
There we go. So you already thought about this.
Yes,
Love
to
it.
make up for it.
Awesome. All right, Casey, what was your broccoli decision? How are we making broccoli?
Uh, well, the one that I think I like the most is a broccoli salad recipe that has it's probably got maybe a bit too much sugar in it, but it's got yogurt and mayonnaise and something else. I can't remember now, but there's grapes in it too.
Okay.
Um,
Fats are covered, fruits are covered, veggies are covered. What are we missing?
well, there's no protein, but I don't usually like we were saying earlier. I don't usually eat it as a meal. It's more of a side.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So then what
Yeah.
would be your protein to go with it?
It would be usually something with like a grain and like chicken.
Okay. Awesome. So then 4 to 6 ounces of chicken, and then what would be your grain?
Most of the time, it's either rice or farro are probably the most common ones.
Cool. Awesome. Love it. Perfect. And then that would make a full meal. Approximately 500 calories would be, again, probably half a cup of farro, I would imagine. Cool. All right. Bethany, what was your final decision?
Uh, Probably spaghetti. It's just easy.
Okay.
So I usually do meat, so it'd be beef,
Awesome.
like hamburger, and then noodles, and then it'd be tomatoes, and then hopefully some veggies and then more veggies in it, like carrots or onions, mushrooms, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And then
And
the
then
one
maybe even some other stuff to fill it out, depending if I got rambunctious.
and the only one I
Uh,
didn't hear was fats. You already have one in there?
well, if it's hamburger,
Mm-hmm.
there's fat in it. I mean, I tend to buy really lean hamburger, but still, um, and I cook with olive oil most of the time. So you'd be sauteing everything up
Sure.
initially. So I probably wouldn't add additional oil.
Cool.
Um, and and then we might put some cheese on it. It just depends. I have uh again, I have to be careful with the lactose, so
Yeah.
it just depends on the day.
And some lactose-free variations too, if you guys do want to do it separately, that's an option too. I know we've talked about some lactose subs, so that's awesome. We also do ground turkey. I don't know if you like or hate
Oh
ground
yeah,
turkey, but
yeah.
that's another one that's a little bit lower calorie, lower fat, if that's something that you want to make an adjustment for. Cool. Awesome. Perfect. Okay, so that's essentially what we're going to do. We pick our meals and then we edit it to make sure that it's got all the right components and and it doesn't have to be per meal, right? We're being a little bit of a stickler right now, but just to get the idea. So we want to make sure that we're getting all these different components throughout our day to make sure that we're well versed. So then the last thing is going to be the meal prep plan itself. So think about how many meals you want to make. Some of you said, 1 week at a time. Some of you said that you just want to do like a leftover type of thing. So you're cooking every couple of days. That's cool. Just decide how many meals you want to make, how much variety you want. Some people are like, I can only eat the same thing 2 days in a row and then I'm completely done with it, right? Which is totally fine. That's one of the reasons that we started doing 2 weeks at a time because we make like four-ish, maybe three, maybe five, but four-ish meals every 2 weeks. And then we cycle through them. So I'm not eating the same meal twice a day, or I'm not eating the same meal 2 days in a row. And that's been really helpful. So that's something to consider as well as how many times are you willing to eat the thing in a row, right? Because the less willing you are, the more variety you're going to need. What ingredients you'll need, make sure that you've got all your spices, make sure that you've got, like your foil, parchment paper, stuff like that. That's something that we don't think about until we go to cook and we're like, oh, shit. The next is expiration. So we already talked about like salads not necessarily being good for several days, maybe 2 to 3 days, right? For max. But the other piece is, do you have somewhere to store it if you're going to have it longer than that? You have room in your freezer. Can you freeze dry it? Anything like that. Have you guys heard the food safety rule of 224? So food can usually last about 2 hours on the table by itself, about 2 inches of a container. So you don't want to go a whole lot deeper than that because then it kind of breeds bacteria. So 2 hours, 2 inches, and then about 4 days from like a food safety standpoint. So 224. So that's something to keep in mind too, is, where am I going to store it? Am I going to put it in the freezer? When do we pull it out, et cetera, et cetera. Usually we pull it out like the day before. So we've got a lunch and a dinner. We eat our lunch and pull a new lunch. And so one day is totally fine. Only takes a couple minutes for it to microwave. So that's something that you can do if you want it to last a little bit longer. And then commitment level. What are you willing to put in? How many hours do you want to cook? And if you're going to make any exceptions, I only want to plan my weekday meals, but on the weekends, we want to feel it out, right? Whatever that decision is for you, making sure that you know that in advance so that you can calculate it and or have the funds that you need to be able to go out for dinner or whatever. That's cool, And you can obviously make that decision that day too, but it also helps to reduce some of that impulsiveness. Couple of tips. Order of operations, just trying to, especially if you have things cooking in different things, marinating and or prepping the veggies is almost always the first step because most of the time the meat needs to sit for a while, right? So that's the first thing that we usually do is marinate whatever we're doing. I do highly suggest marinating it if you're going to especially freeze it, because when you pull it from the freezer, let it sit in the fridge, then microwave it, it gets a little dry. So I highly suggest it. It definitely helps. Seasoning almost every step of the way. And then terrible at this one, but I'm gonna tell you anyways, taste it every step of the way. I literally make the whole thing and hope that it's good. And then I just pack it up and I forget. I'm so bad at it, but I do suggest it. The next one is that we do label them. So if you are going to have multiple ones, I think that's really helpful. We started with little like tags and stuff like that. You don't need anything like that. The thing that we settled on is most of these meal prep containers are just plastic. We write with an expo marker. And then it just wipes off when we wash the dishes and it stays totally fine in the freezer. So that's been the easiest solution that we've found. And then rotating through the meals again, so you're not getting tired of it. Keep it super simple. Shortcuts are totally okay, especially if you're short on time. You need to use frozen meatballs, like go for it. You know what I mean? Whatever you need to do to make it happen. Because again, we still know that the quality is going to be better than if you were to go out and eat, or if you were to, you know, buy something that is cooked in a bag like we did last time. And then the last is if you have somebody to help you, splitting jobs is super duper helpful. So you can either take 2 different recipes or have one person that's like the sous chef and they chop all the veggies while the other person cooks the meat, whatever the case is, try and split those up. So we are pretty close to time. We're technically at time. So the last thing that we're going to talk about is just the 5 W's: who, what, where, and why. So who is going to be involved in your meal prep? Bethany.
Me. It's me. Myself
Okay.
and me.
Hey, it happens. Ray.
Yeah, myself.
Okay. Casey.
Probably me, and I'll try to get my brother to help me.
Ooh, okay. Nice. I know your dad has been talking to me about it too, so maybe we can get in there.
Yeah,
and
we'll get him in there too.
yeah, and you got to steal the kitchen from your mom. So
Yeah.
Okay. So what? We'll just do a super short version. Bethany, how many meals do you think? Let's say next week. Pretend that we're going to start next week. How many meals do you think you'd want to make?
I want to make the ones when I'm working, so that would definitely be 3 nights at a minimum.
Awesome. Right?
But lunch and dinner
Okay.
for the weekdays.
Casey?
Yeah, maybe like 1 or 2 meals a day would be a good starting point.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, keep it simple. If it needs to start at 1 a day and then you feel good about it and then you can pick up from there, that's awesome too. Because the more complex you make it, the less likely you are to do it, right? We all know that for like any of our goal setting. So that's a huge piece. Okay, where? Kitchen, right? Probably for everybody else, pretty easy. When? Bethany, what would be the most ideal time to prep?
Thursdays or Fridays.
Cool.
For me.
Right?
On Sundays or Mondays.
Okay. Casey?
Saturdays or Sundays.
Okay, perfect. And then why, we don't have to answer right now, but that is something to consider, right? Is this going to be helpful for you? And if it's going to be helpful, in what way, right? The reason we started meal prepping was because I was working 4 jobs and there was no way I was going to stay at home and cook. Like it just wasn't happening. And so that was the reason at that time. Now it's shifted because it's just nicer and easier and we've got the groove of it. It's not because I'm not home or that we can't cook, right? We just don't want to. So that's something to consider as well as what that why is for you. Because if it's not a compelling enough reason, just like any of our other goals, then more than likely it's not going to happen, right? So we want to make sure that we consider that as well. Okay, beautiful. So I'm going to leave you guys here with really quick subjects for next workshop. So Ray is actually going to be running our next workshop. We're not going to have one in December because it is during our winter break. And it's close to Christmas and everything like that. So we're just going to cancel that one. But in January, we're thinking a maybe not nutrition one since we just did 2 meal prep ones, but like whatever, whatever you guys want. Any ideas for our workshop? Things you want to learn, try, do?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ray, we might be on our own. We might have to come up with the idea. That's okay. Let us know if you think of something. Because realistically, again, these are for you guys, right? So
yeah,
it could be like lifting tutorial. It could be like he's done a bunch of yoga. We could do like a yoga class where he teaches moves or,
well, and it's January, so people are like resetting.
We could do goal setting.
Yeah, maybe I think I'm gonna probably miss January, but Yeah, realistic goal setting might be one. Or
Okay.
and I like the yoga thing because stuff that's easy for me to do on my own. That yeah.
Love it. Casey, anything?
I always think of something after the fact, so
Okay.
I don't know
Let
if
us
I have
know.
anything.
Yeah, let us know if you think of
That
something.
works.
Again, these are for you guys, so it should be things that we want to learn or share together, whatever the case is. The things that come to my head are almost always nutrition. I don't know why. Go to the grocery store together. We could cook together. We could, I don't know. But literally it could be anything. So let us know if you think of something. We're going to do a quick round robin of your biggest takeaway, something new or different that you thought about or learned today, or something that you're going to implement immediately. I'm going to go backwards. Bethany.
I just like hearing other people's ideas. It gets me thinking about stuff. And so like, I primarily think about it for dinner and then we always take leftovers for lunch, but maybe I should meal prep some breakfast. I mean, I always make breakfast, so maybe I don't have to do that all the time.
Yeah, love that. Awesome. Casey?
Um, I liked the meal composition part because that's something that I don't really think about sometimes. So I'll find myself just like eating like half the types of foods that I should. And so
Yeah.
that's I thought that was helpful for yeah, if I'm coming up with meal plans to make sure that I have those different pieces.
Nice. And at least throughout the day, if not throughout each meal, right? I was a 90s baby, so we grew up on like cheese on chips in the microwave. Like,
That's
that's
good. It's
not a
good stuff
meal.
right there.
So we just want to make sure that we're well-rounded and we have our nutrients, right? And some plants, hopefully. Right.
Take it into consideration that not everything reheats the same,
Mm,
Yeah.
that it isn't as good when
mhm.
you, because I honestly didn't even think about that. I just assumed, no, it tastes the same probably.
Yeah. And if you want to go old school and do like a skillet warm up, most of those things will totally heat up fine. It's just in the microwave, they separate and it gets gross. And then you have like this goopy part with this oily, bleh. Yeah, not great. Beautiful. Well, thank you both for being all three of you for being here. So something that you guys are going to get as like a live, because you made it, thank you, is I've got a meal plan cheat sheet. So it's going to be a breakdown of like what portion sizes are and a few different suggestions for how you can compile a meal. So it makes it super easy to just reference and mix and match as much as you want to. And then a protein playbook, which gives some suggestions for protein substitutes and ways to get lots of really good protein within your diet. So I will send that to all three of you. And otherwise, I'll send the recordings and slides. And I appreciate you for coming.
Have a good
Awesome.
evening.
Yeah, thank
Thanks,
you.
you too. See you
Hey
later.
guys.